And we're live. Hello, Erica Campbell.
Hello, Tim Sohn.
Welcome to episode number 53. Hello over there.
I like the virtual high five here.
Yes. I'm showing up perspectives on cancer. How's it going?
It is excellent. I'm in my home office today because I got exposed to COVID, so I'm not in my office, but I'm feeling great and I'm happy to be here today. What about you, Tim?
I'm happy to be here too. I am, as usual, in my home office. And I want to give a shout out to Zach Demopoulos, who had this hat created for me. Let me see if I can do this. I don't know if you guys can see it. It says showing up perspectives on cancer. And on the back, it actually says, I'm not going to take it off because my hair is going to be a mess, but it says Tim with the brim. That Zach and I, we exchange, we try to rhyme our names. Like I'll say like Zach Attack or Tim with the whatever. Or we have a lot of fun with words. So
Tim with the brim. That is amazing. Yes. Zach, if you're watching, you have some mad skills and that's a cool hat.
Just saying. Totally. Yeah. So hello, everyone. And this show right here, which is going off the rails quickly, but that's okay because we're having fun. And this show is created as a safe space where cancer patients, survivors, and supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. And we even have some fun here too.
Yes, we do.
I'm Tim Sohn, a 15-year cancer survivor. Next month, it'll be 16 years. Host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, and a live streaming producer and coach for nonprofits, businesses, and entrepreneurs who make a positive impact in the world. Over to you, Erica Campbell.
Yes, I am Erica Campbell, and I have multiple perspectives on cancer. First, I am a breast cancer survivor coming up on 4.5 years. I lead a nonprofit called the Pinky Swear Foundation, which helps kids with cancer and their families. I am also a longtime cancer volunteer and what I like to call a cancer orphan after losing my mom to a very, very arduous battle with breast cancer. So thank you so much to all of you who are joining and sharing your perspectives on cancer today. Let us know where in the world you are tuning in from. And if you are new or returning, one of the cornerstones of our program is community. And so we'd love for you to let us know where you're coming from. What is your connection to cancer, and shout out to someone else you see in the chat or someone you don't know in the chat and create that community. It is what holds us together, and it is one of the most important tenets in any cancer journey. So welcome, everyone. Blow up the chat now, and let's hear from you.
I love that. And I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up for the in-person Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer event this past Saturday here in Pennsylvania, as well as for our event partner, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, all of our sponsors, including the Pinky Swear Foundation. Thank you, Erica, all of the speakers, all of the singers. It was such a magical day. There's going to be definitely another event in 2023. And Erica says she's coming, so I'm excited.
100%.
About that.
Changing dates, all the things. I couldn't make it this year, but there will be nothing that keeps me from next year.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. Definitely. So it was so good to see people in person and have people share their stories and show up in all sorts of different ways, including there were screaming goats and bubbles and we had fun, but also there were serious moments. There were tears. There were smiles. There were all the emotions from 10 to 4 o'clock. Shout out to Pups and Kleenex. We had Kleenex at the event, which I kind of felt like I was betraying Puffs a bit, but you know.
That's right. It sounds like you had literally all of the perspectives on cancer, from joy to sadness, from happiness to sorrow, all of the things. Yeah.
It's true. All of them. Yes. So before we move on, I just want to play a quick clip from Rachel Druckenmiller. Did some singing at the event. So I just want to play a quick clip. Try saying quick clips 10 times. But let me just play this briefly, and then we are going to bring our amazing guest on for this week.
Just close your eyes and think of me. and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest nights. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh, yes, I will.
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
That is goosebump worthy, Tim.
Totally goosebump worthy. So shout out to Rachel Druckenmiller and everyone who showed up in person. Also, I announced during the event that there's going to be a Showing Up nonprofit showing up in 2023. So stay tuned for details about that in the coming months. But Erica, who is our guest for this week?
Wonderful. Our guest is Joe Tower. He is a 24/7 caregiver to his wonderful warrior wife, Anna, who has acute lymphoblastic leukemia, otherwise known as ALL. We're going to have a conversation with Joe about his perspective as a husband and a caregiver. It is National Caregivers Month. I think also fun fact that Joe and his wife, Anna, sponsored your event in person, Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. So I think that's a fun fact. Let's bring Joe onto the scene.
Hey,
Joe, welcome
Hi,
to the
guys.
show. Thanks for showing up.
Can't thank you both enough. I also just want to say congratulations to both of you on your incredible years of survivorship and the in person, which that video, Erica, I second that. Goosebump material for sure. So. And a shout out already. You know, we've spoken about this before about community and community online on LinkedIn, and I'm seeing some very familiar names in the chat already. Monique and Adam,
Yes.
Who reached out at various points while I was, posting and active, and offered their support in numerous different ways. So this is exactly what we've been talking about, what we're talking about, and what you guys talk about. So it's wonderful to see.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being here, Joe. And we just want to say thank you to the people who are showing up in the comments to support you and each other. Philip Jones is here. Welcome, Philip. So good to see you here. Monique is here. She says, hi, everyone.
Welcome, Monique.
Tom is here from Cincinnati.
Hey, Tom.
Monique is listening from Florida. She's a survivor and a cancer revival coach.
Yeah, oh, I love it.
Erica, do you want to read some comments?
Sure. This is actually when I was hoping I got to read. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Joe, for posting this on LinkedIn. Columbus, Ohio. Wife fighting her second bout with breast cancer. Chemo almost done. Double mastectomy next. Adam, I am here for you. I personally have had a double mastectomy, and you will get through this. She will get through this. Call me if you need anything.
Yes. Bill Bradford says, good afternoon. Welcome, Bill. It's good to see you. He says, wow, great performance. Thank you, Bill.
True.
Yes.
Super true.
She is so awesome. Also true. Monique says, wow. Justin is here. He says, sup, crew. Welcome, Justin.
Sup, Justin.
Lance is here. He's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, hey, Lance.
I'm also in Pennsylvania. Thanks for being here. Adam says, thank you. Well, thank you all who are showing up.
Amazing.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. What were you saying, Erica?
Oh, I just said, I've got your back, Adam. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all who are here in the comments, all of you who are showing up. We really appreciate your support, being here to support each other, to support Joe. That's really, really, really great. So, Joe, are you ready to dive into the conversation?
Let's crack it open, Tim. I'm fully ready. I'm always ready to talk about all this stuff. This is the bread and butter these days.
Yes, yes. So Joe, your wife Anna has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. What was life and work like for you and her before cancer?
The opposite of what it is now. We currently live up in Denver, in the Denver metropolitan area, so that we can be near her treatment. She's at the glorious Colorado Blood Cancer Institute and Presbyterian St. Luke's Medical Center up here in Denver, which is doing incredible things for blood cancer warriors and blood cancer survivors. Shout out to all of the blood cancer warriors and survivors for sure. We had moved up here from the southwestern part of the state in a small town called Durango. We were newlyweds last year, and very, very active. My wife's a runner. We live in Colorado, so we were on hiking trails, camping. We were in Moab last October, avid mountain bikers. We were sharpening and waxing up our snowboards, getting ready for the dose of winter that we were hoping for. And we're food crazy. My wife just showed up in the comments, so I have to watch what I say because Rose's wife is in the house. She's also in this house, so that's hilarious. Hi, honey. We're big foodies. We love to Colorado craft beer on the back deck of a brewery, looking out of the mountains, and we just don't do any of that anymore right yet. And since her diagnosis, obviously, the treatment for ALL in her age demographic is, for anybody out there that's familiar, is C10403, which is a kind of famous pediatric regimen. And it takes a long time. It's 3 years of intensive chemo treatment. And so, she spent 2 months of the last year in the hospital. We spent, the majority of our weeks up at the clinic, either getting infusions or she's getting blood draws. And she's severely immunocompromised because of it. So with the added bonus of COVID or this year's flu season, we want to get the most out of her treatment now, to increase our chances that she's better later. So we play it very safe, and we just live very small and quietly. We luckily have both worked remote while she's been undergoing the treatment. Hats off to remote work and work from home. It is like, I wish let's all recognize that is the saving grace. We just live a very quiet and small life, I think, in comparison. I think like we don't sit around, and it's not like we're sitting around and resenting that or mourning that, because I think we're looking to get back to it. But and we're so grateful that she got the diagnosis when she did, and we're getting the treatment that she's getting. So,
well, tell us a little bit more about that, Joe. When and how was Anna diagnosed, and what does the treatment plan look like today?
So she got diagnosed December 19th of last year. She was informally diagnosed at Mercy Hospital in Durango, and then formally diagnosed up at Presbyterian St. Luke's with the ALL. And again, for any blood cancer warriors out there, she is B-cell pH negative is her subdiagnosis, which on the treatable scale, very difficult and very serious, but is usually highly responsive, pretty responsive to treatment. We talked about this before too. It's weird to say, when we were talking about cancer community and how it's the club you never wanted to belong to, but you're so lucky you belong to it. it's also weird to say in this when you're going through the ordeal, like to feel lucky or to feel certain things were a benefit or to, but I think that we had a very lucky diagnostic period because it came on and happened so quickly. We were in Chicago on vacation a week before her diagnosis. The week of her diagnosis, we were kind of doing business as usual, getting ready for Christmas. She did have, like looking back on it, every telltale warning sign and symptom of leukemia, of the acute leukemias. Out of breath, going up the stairs, mysterious bruises, night sweats. When we went into urgent care on a Sunday on the 19th, and they took 2 blood draws. They got a white blood cell count, and they were, they didn't say anything at the urgent care, but they're like, we're hoping to hear back from the hospital because, we want to make sure that we know what's going on. And then we got a call from the ER that night, and they were like, get over here. And that was it. I mean, we got a call at 9:00 that night saying to come to the ER. We packed a bag for her, drove to the hospital, and they airlifted her to Denver. So it was as instantaneous, like the same day that we found out she had cancer, we were getting ready to start treatment. That's how quickly it all happened. So, again, in that way, I think we were sort of lucky that we didn't really have a lot of time to sit around and get existential. It was just like, okay, let's start chemo, like right now. The chemo, the outlook for the chemo was pretty bleak. That was maybe the hardest pill for my wife to swallow. They were like, it's a 3-year treatment. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing that. And, of course we were like, well, yes, we are. We're totally doing it. And it exists in three main phases. There's a 30-day period at the beginning, which is kind of phase 1, where they're basically trying, it's called induction. They kind of load you up with chemo and steroids to induce remission of the disease, of the cells. And, if it works, if you get down to 0%, by the end of the 30 days, you kind of move into the next phase. Obviously some people sadly don't, and you get to the end of the 30 days and maybe it hasn't worked or hasn't worked fully, then they got to look at a couple of different other options. But then it moves into a longer phase called induction, which is also very serious, very intensive, and a lot of those classic chemotherapy side effects that we know and love, know and hate, and deal with. I mean, chemo's your best enemy. It truly is a friendly enemy. And then after about 6 months of consolidation, she's moved into a phase called maintenance. We had a little bit of a hold up in August toward the end of her consolidation phase. We had another little cancer scare. And she had an infection as well this summer. And so she just started her maintenance phase about a month ago. And it's this lasts for about 1.5 or 2 years. It's compared to everything else, it's highly manageable. We're in the clinic once or twice a week. She gets a chemotherapy infusion at the start of the month, and then she's on oral chemos pretty much every day. She does steroids right around the time that she gets the chemo infusion, and then she does lumbar punctures to make sure the nervous system is kind of fresh and clean. I don't know why I said that, but fresh and clean from cancer. Got to make sure that that spinal fluid is clear of the leukemia, the cells, and that's it. And the dosages are enough where, she had 8 weeks off of chemo because of this cancer scare we had in August, which was a blessing and a curse a little bit. I think it was we both think it was a blessing because she really got to see, she really healed. She really came back to life. And I think it was a great opportunity for her and myself to see what life will look like on the other side. It was like we got to kind of look through the peephole for a second. And now the side effects they're there. I mean, you don't take this medication doesn't go in your body without side effects. But they're minimal, kind of a nuisance. But we're not, she's not sleeping with a garbage can by the bed anymore. So knock on wood for that.
That's good news for sure, Joe.
Yeah.
Justin has a question. He says, how does treatment affect energy levels and how do you combat it if it does?
I mean, I think it really depends upon the patient. I mean, for us, it certainly did. Some bodies deal with chemo a lot better than others. And just from other people we've talked to, people get affected in many different ways. The answer to the second question is you don't, I think, because, at various levels, especially for blood cancer patients who are undergoing treatment, like it really re-scrambles. I mean, leukemia scrambles your blood levels. Your marrow is jacked. None of the marrow is not producing any really functioning cells that your blood and body need to operate. And chemo kind of does that all again. You get kind of infusions to kind of balance all the blood numbers out. And then chemo kind of comes in and upends everything again. So your immune system's really shot, and you really can't. You want to stay. I mean, you want to do things that are good for you, and you want to do things that are going to benefit you when the chemo's done. But I mean, when there are days where she couldn't get up off the couch or get up out of bed, you gotta stay there. Which for someone like my wife, I don't know the grace and zen like that she had. She's not a person that, like, we joke about it all the time because, I mean, not really, but like while she's been forced to bed rest during chemo, I've actually finally gotten some rest, because she was never a person, did not advocate naps. She was like, where are we going? What are we doing? Like, let's get in the car. Like, let's go on a hike. Let's go on a run. And so for the first time ever, I was starting to be able to enjoy some afternoon naps. So
silver linings. We talked about silver linings.
Silver linings. They're always somewhere. Sometimes they're hard to find, but you really they're there. They're there.
100%.
Yes. So everybody, we're here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. Our guest is Joe Tower. We're talking about his wife Anna's story and his perspectives. So Joe, what were Anna and your reactions to her being diagnosed with cancer?
Man, this is like the billion dollar impossible question. I think sometimes it's even difficult to recollect, right? I mean, for you guys and your loved ones, I'm sure, like, I think you go into a fugue state sometimes.
Yes.
I will kind of reiterate myself, and I think there was a benefit to us really not having any time to think about it. Obviously, there was, I think, just abject fear, like just terror. We both come from families that have really never been sufficiently touched by cancer. My father had prostate cancer, but it wasn't anything. It was serious because it was cancer, but it didn't eat up years of our lives or destroy him physically, or really affect our family life. And outside of that, I honestly haven't really hadn't been touched by cancer at all. And I think after a while, cancer is also one of those things where you just don't, unless you have a distinct family history, no one's sitting around going like expecting to get cancer. I think it's just one of those things where you're like, that's never going to happen to me. And then it does. And you're like, well, I was wrong and that sucks. But I think because of the immediacy of it, and, our doctor, who is Marcello Rota, who is just an incredible doctor, said in no uncertain terms, like, you can go get a second opinion, but like, you don't really have time. She was, her marrow was like 98%. She was probably days or weeks away from a stroke. So we had to get shit, sorry, done now. Like, we had to go, you know? So we had to kind of activate in that way. I think I mentioned this to you, I was telling you guys this before. I remember, I think for myself, I remember leaving the ER when she got airlifted and driving back to our house to go pack a bag. Like, I was going to pack a suitcase for her, you know, leave, and then drive up to Denver the next morning. But I was driving back in the middle of the night. It was, you know, I think like 1 a.m. or something like that, 2 a.m. Driving back to this county road in our town and rage crying, you know, just screaming and doing that, like, why her? This isn't fair. Getting, you know, I was so angry at the universe and cursing it for being so unfair. And in the same moment that I was furious, I also like remember this voice in my head going, you can have this argument, but you're the only one having the argument. Like, there's nobody's having this argument with you. So we can do all this stuff where we're like, this is unfair. She doesn't deserve this. And no, she doesn't deserve it. Yes, it is unfair. It's unfair this is an unfair, totally indiscriminate disease. And I mean, for us to sit around and be angry about it. And I remember her second or third day in the hospital, we were crying and clutching hands. And we were both like, we either sit and waste time being angry, or we get clear about getting through this together and getting you health and you healing and you recovering. So those are some distinct. When we talk about those first days, those first weeks, she kind of is like, I don't remember that. I think there's a blur there. You know, and in some ways for us both, I think you use a lot of things, especially when you're inpatient, I think, to track time. You have to use a lot of those things to track time, because I think time itself kind of becomes pretty nebulous. It's like, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what month it is. I don't know is it a season? Is it a holiday? Okay, great. Like, thank God the nurses decorated the front desk in the ward, because I wouldn't have known it was Christmas, you know? So, yeah, definitely a little bit of a blur.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Maria has a question. She says, how's your relationship with her now? So I guess, has the cancer changed your relationship at all?
Great question. We always say, like, I need to be very clear that as a caregiver, I recognize how lucky I was to be in this situation with her. Because she exhibits a kind of superhuman strength and control and care and kindness that, like, I'm like, are you from this planet? Like, you're incredible. So I recognize being very lucky in that department. Like, every day I would, you know, show up at every morning I would show up at the hospital. She would be smiling and, you know, no one would have blamed her if she was curled up under the covers crying. I wouldn't have. I probably would have been doing that if it were me, but she didn't. She was the nurse, like, her nurses and doctors would laugh because she'd be doing walking laps with her IV pole around the cancer ward. And so I always say that talk about another silver lining. Our relationship is the silver lining. Like, you know, if you're either a cancer patient or you're a caregiver and you're in a situation like this and you're a married couple or you're, you know, whatever, if you can't imagine being anywhere else, then you're very lucky. And I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. And there was never a question for me. And we're very lucky. We're very lucky. Yeah. So that's for my wife too. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Love you, babe.
Yeah, I have to say, Joe, like I know myself and probably everybody watching can just feel the love between you two. And I know you're newly married. So I'm curious, how did you guys meet? And were there any other hurdles you had to get through?
Oh man, I guarantee that she just laughed in the living room at that question. We met, we are actually, we'll be celebrating 3 years since we met in person for the first time. We met because we both worked for the same company. She's from Budapest, Hungary. We both worked I took a job with a emerging tech company, a few years ago. And she was one of their account managers at their headquarters in Budapest. And I was staying in New York at the time, and I took my first project with them, and I had to fly to Los Angeles from New York. And one of the other account managers passed all of the logistical work for that project on to Anna. And so I had to hop on an email thread with Anna so that she could arrange some flight tickets and an Airbnb. And I think she said the same thing. I remember looking at her like Google, her Gmail photo and being like, oh, I hope she's there on the project in person. So we did, she did go to LA, but we just missed each other. Like I got in moments after she left with another team to go to Austin, I think. And, but we started, we started flirting on LinkedIn.
All right, viewers, LinkedIn is the new, what is it, dating app?
I know that I know there are a lot of complaints on LinkedIn that LinkedIn is not a dating app, and it's not. And any gentleman on LinkedIn who's trying to troll ladies on LinkedIn, stop it, you're gross. But also, I'm a LinkedIn dating profile success story. I'm sorry to say.
If you're watching from LinkedIn, message Joe later.
If you want, LinkedIn should buy our story. Like
totally.
we overloaded the LinkedIn matrix with flirtatious messages for a period of time. So then we very sneakily kind of tried to arrange to be on the same project in Nashville. And it didn't work out because I had to go out of the country to a different project in Tokyo. But we decided that we were going to meet in Los Angeles to see if this was worth a shot. We met, we spent a week together. It was freaking magical. And we've been together ever since. Now, the week we met in LA was a week before the COVID quarantine lockdown. So we kind of thought we were going to be able to kind of explore this relationship. I'd go to Budapest. She'd come to the States. We'll see, and we didn't get a chance to do that. So we endured the miles and the distance, and then we endured the COVID lockdown. And then we ended up meeting. We were able, when numbers kind of subsided, we were able to meet in Cancun that August. And then after that, we kind of decided to get all of our citizenship paperwork for getting married in order. And we did all that together. I mean, she spearheaded and took care of all that paperwork because I'm not good with paperwork or keeping anything organized. So we took care of all of that. So we really got through COVID. We got through citizenship, and then we got married she moved to the States permanently, and we got married last July. And then 5 months later, we got the diagnosis. And, we're tackling this like we've tackled every other. And I think, at this point, marriage-wise, we sort of feel like relationally we're unstoppable. So
that's an awesome story. And yes, you two were built together.
We were.
Yeah.
No question. And yeah. I mean, that's very true. And like I said, I'm extremely lucky that I'm in this situation with her because she's the strongest person I've ever known. So
Beautiful,
That's awesome.
beautiful. Well, everyone, we are here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with Joe Tower. So, Joe, what changes did you make to your life, including housing and career?
So I lived in a hotel for a month or month and a half when she first got diagnosed. It was pretty clear that we were going to have to move here because the treatment was so, and we were lucky to be able to do it because I know that there are people that are dealing with blood cancer who live where we used to live, who have to commute up here. Like, not everybody could. We don't have any kids. We didn't have, we have remote jobs. So we're so grateful that we were able to do it. And my family was instrumental in helping us kind of get it done. But we basically moved to Denver overnight, kind of. We had a house down in, we lived in a house down in Durango. It all got packed up, moved on. And, my father and mother helped, and my sister helped pack up like a small portion of that stuff, drove it up to Denver, all while Anna was still in the hospital. Had signed a lease on this apartment here, which is about 10 or 15 minutes away from the clinic. First few weeks I was here alone, and definitely it was just a big screen TV and like 2 lawn chairs, and an air mattress. That was super depressing. Super depressing. So everything got packed up. Everything got, we took only what we could really fit. We took only what we really thought we need. We did have to get an apartment to kind of accommodate her immune system when she got out of the hospital and when she was home. We kind of tried to make sure that we had enough bathroom space, enough kind of space when my family comes up to help, to be here. And we wanted to make sure we had enough space for everybody. So I mean, basically changed everything. I was working, I helped start a boutique consulting company for aspiring writers and authors, that we had a pretty large client load, and I work freelance as a content creator for production companies and some agencies. So once she got her diagnosis, I knew that I wanted to be around, and I dialed back my client load and I dialed back my workload significantly. She is a communications specialist at a not-for-profit based in Durango, and they've been just incredibly supportive in they let her take a leave, and then they let her do kind of piecemeal part-time, and she's just now gone back to full-time. So we did adjust. We were lucky to adjust in that way as well. So again, we benefited. We're very grateful that we had the ability to do this. The other thing about Colorado, and the reason that we kind of had to move hook, line, and sinker to Denver is because of the Rocky Mountains, there's not a lot of great ways to like get across the state or get down the state. You got to go like around. So Durango, where we lived before, is kind of nestled in this area called the Western Slope, which are very precarious mountains. And then there's the Sangre de Cristos and the Front Range up here on the east side of the state. And the 2 ways that you can use to get between Denver and Durango, if it snows enough in the wintertime, those roads close. So we just couldn't risk staying in Durango and somehow commuting and experiencing the chemo treatment, even here locally. There's just no way we could have done it. So it was all necessary, and we were very, very lucky. And a lot of people don't have the help or the support or were able to do the things we did. So, once again, there's kind of like there's more silver linings when you start to look at it. So.
Oh my gosh, Joe. And I love the story of you and your wife kind of like sort of flirting and meeting through LinkedIn. What other
ridiculous.
ways do you think social media has helped you and your wife? And, and when did you start sharing Anna's story and why?
I was really anti-social media for a long period of time. And I have worked in marketing and promotion. So there's no, I should recognize the benefits. LinkedIn is the only social media platform that I've been on, I think, for the last few years. And my wife was fairly active on Instagram. We're both, in a sense, transplants. I lived in LA for 10 years up until 2018. And then I kind of was nomadic for a little bit until I ended up kind of settling in Durango near my sister and our niece, and my folks were close by in Arizona. But I had left, like kind of 10 years of social and professional life. I didn't have I wouldn't say that I had a particular social circle in Durango. Didn't know that many people and was always traveling for work. So wasn't really ever around long enough to establish anything. My wife is an immigrant. She gave up 34 years of her life in Hungary to move to the United States. And, I think, not to pre-answer the next question, but I think one of the reasons I really wanted to get her story out there is because I look at what she's endured. She gave up everything to move to the United States. The only home that she knew was our home in Durango, which she spent 5 months in before she literally packed a bag, left in the middle of the night, and then never saw that home again. She lived in a hospital room for 30 days before she really even saw Denver. And everything since then has been the apartment or the clinic. So I think our communities are really spread out, so social media provided, aside from the fact that she's cooped up in a hospital room for the first 30 days, Instagram was a lifeline to the world. And then instantly, the cancer community came calling on Instagram. So thank God. And so for her, Instagram became a way to, she was very specifically wanted to share her experience as candidly and brazenly and raw as possible. She wanted to make sure that, and there was a lot that she was going to have to contend with the chemotherapy. But she wanted to make sure that she kind of bared it all, that she showed it all. And I think, for my part, my sister really helped us she started a GoFundMe for our medical bills, the day that Anna got admitted to the hospital. She was on that. And we've built an incredible community there because we've been able to reach both a community here in the States, my communities, but also an international community, that's reached Hungary. And she's done interviews with newspapers and magazines and websites that are based in Budapest. So we kind of were able to assemble this incredible community through the GoFundMe. And I would, made sure to update as often as possible Anna's condition and how things were going. And I was very explicitly trying to be as I don't want to dress up any language, and I didn't want to dumb down any language. I wanted to make sure that I was as clear with people as possible. We were talking with another couple of friends of ours up in Fort Collins, and he's just almost maybe 6 or 9 months post bone marrow transplant. He was diagnosed with the same leukemia that Anna has just a few months before her. And they got a little baby, and we connect with them when we can. But we were talking with them about how people that haven't been touched in any way don't really understand, don't really get, unfortunately, and I'm glad that they don't get how much it is, how much it takes, how involved it is. I remember he was telling a story where he was like, I had to go into the hospital for a month. And one of his buddies was like, well, at least it's only a month. And then we were all like, have you ever even been in a hospital for just a day? Like overnight? That is 30 days you live there. Like that is insane. So I think with the GoFundMe and then subsequently the LinkedIn, I wanted to show people exactly and tell people exactly what we were kind of encountering. All the medications, all the chemo, all the antivirals, antibacterials, all the steroids, the lumbar punctures, the biopsies. I just wanted to make sure I was as clear as possible. And it became kind of a practice. It became a mantra. It's its own version of therapy. And, Tim, we talked about this, like on LinkedIn and any social media platform, there's a part of posting where you're just kind of searching for validation. So I think I took to LinkedIn looking for community and validation for sure, and found it in droves. I mean, again, and, just going back to like some people that are in the chat already, like Monique in particular, like people come, especially people in the cancer community come a running, and they come to help. They come ready to help. So I think the reason that we did were the reasons mostly that anybody does. It's a method of survival, I think.
Yeah. And, we talked about the cancer community. Man, do they show up? It's a club you don't want to belong to, but it's the best club.
I mean, they're not a joke. It's the best club. And I hope to for anybody that struggles with giving themselves over to the community, and I know that exists, I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
I hope you can see your way clear, because it'll pay you back. It'll pay you back in dividends.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to ask for help, but it's hard to find your people. But when you do, oof.
Doors open, and we've found so many people like in, nationally, internationally, and like just in Denver, like, no doubt, especially, in regards to the in-person showing up, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society LLS is incredible organization. And, there's a couple local Denver nonprofits. One in particular, give a shout out to Small Choices, run by Kate Poppert, they've saved our lives on a number of occasions, I think. So.
Yeah.
So Joe, what is your life like as a caregiver, and what's it like to be a part of the cancer community? We were just talking about that a little bit.
Yeah. Being a part of the cancer community is the best. It's the best. Yeah. And I will say in particular, just in regards to my wife too, the survivor identity is the strongest and most unshakable identity that exists. There's nothing that is armor that is impenetrable. And I think it's very important. And I think the recognition and for her to be around other survivors and her to talk candidly with other survivors, which she loves to do, and she does, it's the most powerful thing. As a caregiver, I think, I think that it's changed. It changes depending on how she's doing. There was a long stretch where it's a full-time job. She couldn't drive. She's not allowed to clean because of her immune system. There were of course days where she couldn't get up out of bed. And, so for any caregiver, and all caregivers know this, if you've got a full-time or a part-time job outside, you've also got a full-time job at home. Obviously, when the patient if and hopefully when the patient begins to get better, when you move into like the survivorship stage, it becomes a kind of a whole different kind of a mental game where you've really got to reckon with your identity. And I think the hope is that you did enough self-care during the hard times, which I know is hard to do, hard for me to do. And I don't think that I really did it or did it correctly, or not correctly. That's the wrong word to use, but did it appropriately for myself. The hardest time for caregivers can sometimes be in that survivorship stage, not only because caregivers carry around a lot of guilt, because the comparison of your situation to your loved one or the patient's situation is always, well, they have cancer. Why? I don't deserve to, go see take 2 hours out of my day to go see a therapist. But you have to, because the better you can take care of yourself, the better you can take care of your loved one or the patient. But when you get to survivorship, there's kind of a reckoning with the identity, because you've likely made a lot of sacrifices to be a caregiver in the first place. You likely, even when you weigh that job versus anything else you're doing in your life, caregiving will always be the most important, will always come out on top. It doesn't matter if it's a job or it's a hobby or it's a pastime or whatever, nothing will compare to being a caregiver. So in some ways, the silver lining is it can provide, a feeling of purpose, and its own distinct identity, but also when the time comes to celebrate your loved one or the patient getting better or healing, the caregiver might not have the strength or the mental fortitude to do that, because they might be A, exhausted, and or B, trying to reconcile with the fact that they may not have to be a caregiver like that anymore. So it's been very interesting. And I think I said this to you before, that my wife is doing very well right now. And we are very lucky that she's doing very well. I mean, knock on wood and hands in the air, raise the roof. Like, she is, we're in a good place after being in some not good places. And, I want nothing more than to celebrate and be a part of that. And the last couple months have been maybe the hardest for me mentally. There's the threat and risk of a lot of depression and anxiety. Caregivers, and for any caregivers out there who are perhaps dealing with a loved one or a patient with blood cancer or not. Actually, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society has some excellent resources for caregivers, chats, groups. You can do peer-to-peer with other caregivers who are kind of in your position. And I do recommend that. It's good just to, help yourself normalize the feelings that you're having, because all the feelings that you think are not normal probably are. Even if it's resentment or a little bit of anger or that guilt or shame that's like classic, or if you're not sleeping, which is like a big one, or you're depressed, or you might have PTSD. We got to get out and get some help. And it is National Caregivers Month, and always the focus is got to be on our survivors and our loved ones and our cancer warriors, always. But, I think the National Caregivers Month is not a time where we're trying to encourage other people to recognize caregivers. I think the National Caregivers Month is an opportunity for all of the caregivers out there to recognize themselves.
Yes.
And recognize that is what you are, and that is what you're doing, and you are necessary, and you are essential, and you also need to live and take care of yourself and do good things for yourself and have stuff to look forward to, and go see a therapist and
Yes.
And go talk to somebody and go be part of groups and do things that make you happy. Cause you got to keep going. Cause we all still got to keep our warriors going. I mean, that's how it works. So.
Joe, you are so articulate, and I can tell that you put a lot of intentionality behind your role. So give me, what is your best piece of advice that you could give to someone who's entering that caregiving experience?
Well, that's an awesome question, Erica, because I've been giving that a lot of thought. Because for me personally, I think the entrance into the role was so much easier than exiting the role. Going in is a lot easier than coming out, and I think the reason for that is because in any traumatic experience that's life or death, we do not have the luxury of a lot of superfluous questions. We have what and how, because when our doctor said you have this disease and it's going to kill you, then okay, fine. Then all we have to do is do whatever we have to do to make sure that doesn't happen. So what and how become easy answers, because it's whatever serves that. I think when you're coming out of, hopefully you're coming out of the traumatic experience, sometimes that's survivorship. Unfortunately, that is also bereavement. That can be in the bereavement stage. Although largely I think sometimes survivorship for caregivers might be harder than bereavement in a lot of ways. Sometimes, but no matter which of those stages that you're in, I think reconciling with what happened, reconciling with what changed, reconciling with having witnessed your loved one or your patient endure what they had to endure. I think it takes its toll, and I think it doesn't really take its toll until after the mantle's up. Because I've been indulging in a lot of self-pity lately, but I sure as hell didn't indulge in any self-pity while we were in the thick of it. Like, these last 9 months, you're just trying to get through every day, and you're trying to help your warrior get through every day. Like, and there were days where she didn't know if she was going to get through the day. And so those are the days where you got to step up and make sure that they know that they can get through the day. But when,
Right.
When that's over, when that kind of relationship is over, you just start going, am I going to be able to get through the day? And I think that the way back is so much harder. I think it's so much harder. So I think the advice is certainly, it's so hard to do. It's going to be so hard to give yourself permission to treat yourself, to take care of yourself while this is going on, because we are hardwired to be sacrificed. That's why human beings are amazing, is because when that situation arises with a loved one, we're hardwired to be sacrificial. We're like, I got to not sleep and not eat and not do anything but like watch you and make sure that you're fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's incredible. But if you do that at the expense of yourself, you're gonna tire out real easily.
Yeah.
And that resentment or anger that's kind of the quickest road there. I think if you don't take time for yourself, I think that's the quickest road to like resenting who you're caring for. So I think you gotta do that early on and consistently, and you got to be smart about it. I mean, this is also like, it's another conversation, but it's the trick of self-care. Like,
oh yeah,
it is self-care sitting around eating Twizzlers, binging Netflix all day. Sometimes, maybe. All the time, probably not. So like, figure out not just what helps you rest, but what helps you recharge, what helps you, what nourishes you, right? I mean, would have been real easy I'm in the middle of Denver. There are lots of incredible microbreweries. It would have been real easy for me to spend every night just like crushing ales. But that's not going to get me through like some other stuff that's going to help keep me going. So you got to make sure that I think being aware that there's a lot of ways that you can take care of yourself. And I think it's a and I'm this isn't mine. I was on a great webinar that LLS put on with Dr. Applebaum, who's the head psychologist at Sloan Kettering in New York. Shout out to Sloan Kettering, obviously. And she's put together some incredible resources for caregivers who are taking care of patients that are at Sloan Kettering. She did a great webinar, and she was talking about support, and she was talking about, there's medication, there's peer-to-peer, there's professional therapists, there's counseling, there's, all of these different resources. And she said, it's probably not any one thing. Don't count on any one of these to do it. It's probably, you got to put it together kind of like your own little puzzle. And each piece is maybe going to be a little bit of a different size. So maybe it's a lot of peer-to-peer, a little bit of counseling, a little bit of medication, a little bit of taking care of yourself. It's got to suit you. So, unfortunately, you got to take a little bit of that, any energy that you have left, and put it into figuring out what's the good stuff that's gonna nourish you.
I think that's life for anybody in caregiving, parenting, any challenging situation. Thank you for raising the self-care piece.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely. So Joe, what is your one word perspective on cancer?
Love.
Oh,
love. I mean, I keep saying that. Actually, I told a therapist this. I said this in therapy the first time, and I don't know sometimes I think I spend a lot of my life thinking, like, am I fully capable of all like the human stuff? Like, there are always stories of things like this, of people, sacrificing themselves for loved ones or whatever. Like, I think what I learned about myself, and I was relieved to discover that I love someone enough where, like I said, I couldn't imagine myself anywhere else. So that was huge. It was a relief. I was like, oh, good. I am a fully compassionate human. But I think it kind of went a step further. I think you start to love, if you're lucky enough to trust your medical support, your medical team, you start to love them a little bit. You start to love the new routine. You start to kind of not love the treatment, but like love certain milestones in the treatment. Obviously, with the cancer community, started to love the cancer community, started to love, hanging around other people that were survivors or warriors or going through it, or wanting to help, or wanting to, take care of other people when we can, or give to other people when we can. It opens up like this whole new, I think this whole new like chamber of love and compassion. That, not that it wasn't, maybe hopefully like wasn't there before, but like certainly it didn't have a reason to activate.
Beautiful.
I love that. What about you, Erica?
Yeah, it's interesting. I knew this question was coming, and interesting. My word based on your story and the story was loving. So when you said so love, good. I was like, oh, yeah.
So good.
Right. And I was afraid that was going to be a controversial word, because nobody wants to be like, yeah, cancer is so loving. But like, that's what came to mind. So I'm with you. And I think, I know many people are going to be inspired by your love story. And I don't just mean the time on LinkedIn, right? It's the love that developed afterwards. And like you said, your heart cracked open and you had that compassion and a whole new, deeper part of yourself you didn't know was there.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you.
Tim, what's your word?
I've been waffling between support. You want to hear a funny story? With the in-person showing up event, we had an after party at our house, literally here in our house. And somebody sketched the word love into a banana in our kitchen. And I didn't know, I had an idea who it was, but I put a post up on LinkedIn. They literally sketched the word banana. I don't know how they did it. They didn't actually use a pencil, I don't think, but somehow they wrote the word banana into not the word banana, love into the banana. And I put a post up on LinkedIn, and it was actually Ashok who shows up here on the show. He's in the comments, I believe. So shout out to Ashok for showing up with love at the after party, for showing up.
Yes.
Love is showing up in all sorts of ways recently, including today. So I could go with love as well. Love, community support, that whole idea.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
This has been such a great show. Such a great show, Joe. Thank you for sharing Anna's story. Is there anything else that you want to say? Yeah.
I mean, have to give an enormous shout out to my wife. It's incredible to be amazed by a person daily, and then when they battle cancer, then you just are like, the amazement is compounded. So I gotta give a big shout out to her. And I just, to you guys, like, this is the kind of stuff that's incredible. This very visible support, this very visible outreach. And there are just a number of, I think, like we said, like, when it happens, the cancer community comes a running, and like, you all just know. And then, you hopefully, like, and we talked about this being part of the healing process, you hopefully want to come a running yourself when someone else is in need. So I think a shout out to the network that exists, and for anybody who's lucky enough not to be touched, or the 50% of people that are lucky enough perhaps not to be touched by this directly, that really don't know that it's there. I didn't know that it was there, this kind of secret society, I think that also is like, that's the big it is the big love. It is just so thankful that it exists. So
you just mic dropped that whole ending. So thank you so much, Joe. Yeah.
Thank
you,
guys.
Think,
Thank you.
Giving back is part of the healing process, and it sounds like you are well along the healing process.
We're trying. We'll hopefully further, and I keep LinkedIn updated. So
there you go.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye, Joe. Thank you. Whew.
Erica Campbell.
So many mic drop moments on that one. And I think particularly for me, obviously, just the underscoring of love. But from the caregiver's perspective, I think Joe's talk about how it's almost harder to exit the caregiving experience than it is to enter it. Super powerful for me today. Yeah,
same here. And we haven't had too many guests on the show talk about the caregiver perspective. So it's always good to hear different perspectives here on Showing Up. So thank you, Joe. So thank you, everyone, for showing up here in the comments. And we're always looking for guests who want to be on the show. So if you'd like to be a guest, please send me a direct message, and we'd love to have a conversation with you about being a guest. If you have some kind of connection to cancer, if you're a survivor, if you're a caregiver, if you're involved in a nonprofit, maybe something like the Pinky Swear Foundation, or some other connection to cancer. Of course. Also a reminder, there aren't going to be any shows in December. Also, there's not going to be a show the week of Thanksgiving. So that as well. Erica, who's our guest on the next week's Showing Up?
Next week, on Tuesday, November 15th, we will be joined by Marcel Presley, and who is a survivor of nasal pharyngeal carcinoma. I feel like I butchered that, but I suspect we'll hear a lot more about it next week.
Yes, we will. So thank you to everyone for tuning in to another episode of Showing Up, Perspectives on Cancer. And you know what time it is, Erica? Do you know?
It's time to dance.
It's time to dance. Here we go. Joe, are you ready to dance? Are you ready? Here we go. Let's dance.
Bye, everybody.